my near death experience. I'd been studying a Zen koan for a couple years, and the only way I could understand it fully was to essentially die for a second in there. I'd made a promise to myself on vacation that I wouldn't deviate from my spiritual practice. I'd try to find time daily if I could, no matter where was. And in this case, I was in Las Vegas, Sin City of all places. And I'd not been doing a good job up until that point, but that day I made a decision. My friends were off doing something, and I'm like, all right, I need to go like sit somewhere and do some sort of spiritual practice, just something. And I was sitting in a cafe in the Venetian with my headphones in, playing some jazz music or something, just reading this article for 20, 30 minutes. And it's one of the most poignant articles I've ever read on meditation. And funny enough, a few tables over, there was like a man with a prostitute sitting. So it was like in this sinful place, I'm sitting here having this moment of enlightenment. And late in that vacation, I got a text from my manager that I was going to be promoted upon my return. So I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, things couldn't be better. I was having a great trip. I'd made like a new friend on the trip, and we were getting boba at Resorts World. And we were standing near a guy playing like 50, $100 a spin or a hand on a video poker, and he won 40 grand while I was standing next to him. I have that effect, as one of my friends would say, I have a horseshoe up my ass. I don't get the luck myself, but it seems people around me do. And he won the 40 grand. I take a drink of the boba, and little boba balls. It was like multiple ones went through and got stuck in my throat. So I started choking. There was a moment where I knew it was it. It was like, okay, I can't breathe. My friend's asking me if I'm okay. I kind of like tell him to back up for a second. So I'm trying to clear it. I know how to do the Heimlich. I don't know if anyone around me knows that. So I was like, I'm kind of feeling like I'm about to pass out because I've not been breathing for a bit. And I'm kind of doing the kind of thing. And I kind of take a look around at my surroundings, one last look. I kind of was like, well, this is it. Hopefully the paramedics or someone or my friend or somehow I get saved here, but I think this is it. And I took like one last look. I'm like, oddly look beautiful to me, all the lights. And, I was having a good experience. Like, well, this is a good day to die. I kind of thought, like, okay, if I'm going to die now, I guess it's okay. Let me take one last look. Let me just soak it in for a second. Who knows what's on the other side? And once I had that thought, my throat relaxed a little and it went through, and I was able to breathe again. Um, and then my friend was like, "You okay?" Like you kind of see I was kind of out of it. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm good." And that moment stuck with me because I didn't think about my son. I didn't think about anything. I only in that moment just kind of was soaking that last moment on earth in, kind of thing. Like I made peace in that moment, surprisingly. And I kind of felt like the universe was giving me a test right then. It was like, okay, you're doing all the spiritual practice and this and that, but what happens on the exam? Like, when you're a kid studying, you could study all day, but maybe you're not studying the right thing, or you think you know, but you get to the exam and you still flunk it. I know I've had that experience where I've like studied my ass off and I still fail the test somehow. And I felt like I learned everything, but I didn't apparently, right? And there's other times when it's the opposite, where you didn't study that much, but somehow you ace it. And so this one was kind of like I passed the test, but I didn't wasn't preparing for a test. I was just kind of going, just trying to keep my commitment to myself by like maintaining a spiritual practice. And it was kind of like after that trip, I kind of went home and I started watching NDE videos, and there was something on Netflix with NDEs and YouTube, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole, and I could really relate to all that stuff. And I'd been studying a Zen koan like Mindbender for a couple years that said something like essentially there was a guy, he was getting chased by lions and he comes to the edge of a cliff, so he kind of climbs down the edge of the cliff, and because there's like a weak sort of tree he can hold on to, and he was kind of planning to climb all the way down the cliff face, but he sees wolves down at the bottom, so he's stuck. And the his weight starts pulling down this tree that's growing out of the cliff, and he's gonna fall soon. He can tell it's creaking, and he to his right he sees a little bit tiny strawberry, just a little strawberry that's been growing right out of the cracks, the fissures in the cliff and the dirt, the small amount of dirt that's there. And he picks one of the strawberries. It looks so beautiful to him, and he eats it, and it was the best strawberry he's ever eaten. It was the best thing he's ever done in his life. And he just kind of savored that strawberry in that moment. And that's kind of what happened to me, where it was like that koan, I understood it intellectually, which I think is a lot of problems with spiritual practice. You can read the books, you can get all woo woo, go to communities and feel like, but until you live it, till you experience these moments yourself, it doesn't have the same depth. It doesn't have the same meaning. It doesn't stick with you. It's definitely changed my life just from going through that, just seeing, when you really think it's over. Because one thing, if you have a close call and you're like, woo, but when you really think it's over, over. I think Ram Dass says something like every spiritual practice too has a self-destruction date. There's something about that every practice you do, you eventually get too comfortable and it stops working, and you're trying to make it work, but you need to move on to the next step. I think Thich Nhat Hanh says something like, if you have to, there's a door without a doorbell, or it's so thick you can't even knock on it to make enough noise, and so you pick up a brick to pound on the door so that they can open the gate for you. And when you walk in, you throw away the brick. You don't carry around the brick. The same thing, there's other Zen sayings where you don't care. Once you cross the river, you don't carry the raft on your back forever. It's like once you get through something, you don't need it anymore. It was useful for the moment. And that kind of happened to me with the Zen practice. I still utilize some of these Zen koans just to think about, but I was really a true blue Buddhist for a while there, and eventually kind of fell away. And I think Ram Dass talked about that as well, where it was he preferred it as well at one point, and then he kind of ended up a Hindu. I'm kind of similar, where I'm kind of more Hindu philosophy nowadays, but I'm sure that'll have an end date, and then I'll move on to something else, and and so on and so forth. Not that you can't stay where you're at, but I think he's right, where when you go through a near death experience like this or anything like this, you kind of makes you reassess everything as well. So life has these inflection points that I think test your current metal, and they test what you believe about the world, because you have to live with yourself after and kind of look at things. And so Ram Dass also says that there was a study where a certain percentage of Americans, it was like 57% or something crazy like that, where Americans had had a mystical experience and they didn't want to have it again. Of that 57%, there was a large number of them. It was like the bulk of them didn't want, or like 80% of that group didn't want to have another. I'm in the other group. I'm like, no, I want more of these. And I've had some more smaller near death experiences, some more other choking ones, and some other ones where I had to call 911 once because I thought I was having a heart attack. Um, and yeah, and it was funny with the one of the other near death experiences. I like was choking. I was at a poker game again. It's poker related, and I was at eating some charcuterie board thing, and I start choking. I'm like, all right, like I guess, like okay, I guess this is it again. Like it didn't. The previous time it freaked me out more. I was kind of more existential. I'm like, all right, guess it's time. But this time I didn't like. I swallowed like I didn't go through. I didn't feel like I was going out completely. Like the previous time, I kind of passed it faster, and then I had another one too where it was like in my own house, I was choking again. And I was like, oh no, I have so many cigars I want to smoke. Like, don't take me yet. Like, it was more like, come on, like, not right now. And then the 911 call, when I thought I had was having a heart attack, it was more of like I was just doing my duty to my son and my own brother and family of like, let me make sure I don't go out. I don't, if it is it, what can I do really? And I'm like, okay, let me just make sure. And then, of course, they came and they did like EKG on me and everything was fine. Looking back, I think it was, I was eating a lot of brown rice. I think it somehow wasn't digesting. I think it was probably more like heartburn, but it felt like serious. I never call 911. And so it felt like something was going wrong. But that was one of the funniest ones though, just when I'm like, don't take me yet. I want to smoke a few more cigars. I think Maharaji, who was Ram Dass's guru, had said something where there was a story that Maharaji woke up in the middle of the night and he wanted chapatis, which is like an Indian eggy bread sort of thing. Like, I would eat chapatis, and like so they cooked him up. Somebody ate him ravenously at like 1, 2 in the morning, and the next day they're like, "Why did you do that? What was going on?" And he eventually admitted like one of his students was in the process of dying. He wanted to eat that before he died, so Maharaji did it for him, so he didn't have to reincarnate just to eat some chapatis. It's like that cigar moment was like that story for me. We're like, oh, come on, like I don't want to have to reincarnate over just smoking some cigars I didn't get a chance to smoke. It's funny to have that wherewithal as thought I was dying. Like, oh, come on, like I have some really good stuff I've been wanting to smoke. Like, don't take me yet. It's funny how the mind works after you've been through these experiences. I kind of feel like it's like driving when you're a brand new driver, when you're like, student driver, you're like, you're at 10 and 2 and you don't have any music going, you're scared of everything. And then after a while, you're kind of in base brain where you'll drive for 10 minutes and you'll be like, oh shit, I don't remember how I got here. Like, you're kind of on autopilot. You're so used to the danger, like you've kind of acclimated to the altitude. And I kind of feel like it's spiritual practice. It gets like that. For me in particular, death has gotten to me like that, where it's like, oh, if I look back even farther, I think I was 18, 17. I was still living with my parents. I was in high school and I was driving this old beater, and the car went out as I was going up a incline on the freeway, and there's this big rig that's coming up behind me, and I had to get over to the side of the road, and I just start sweating, and I get over to the side of the road and I don't die, but like there was no spiritual element to that point. I was an atheist at that point, but there was like no spiritual element in that one. Oddly, it was just like I did what had to be. I was in the towel in that one. I was in the effortless effort. I just did what had to be done. But at the time, it was like I wasn't even that freaked out. It kind of just happened so fast. But and I think I was so young, maybe mentally, I didn't think I could pass. Versus when my first real NDE happened, I was, like 35 or something. So a little bit closer to maybe I'm not going to make it. 17, you think you're going to live forever. Anyways, if you guys have any NDEs, put them in the comments. And as always, like and subscribe.